Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, for years, Drew Klein with Americans for Prosperity has been telling us that state employees are overpaid. That theory was supposedly one of the reasons that rights were taken away from Chapter 20. But evidently, Governor Reynolds didn't get that memo. Governor Reynolds used a total of $448,449 in CARES Act money that could have been used for testing or contact tracing, for support for hospitals, for economic support for businesses, and for care for Iowans across the state. But those monies were used as part of the salaries for 21 of the governor's employees. Did they get raises? Did the governor use the money appropriated for these salaries for something else? We don't know. The governor also used at least $171,000 in annual bonuses to bring the salaries of 5 department heads to a total over the legal salary cap. Where did she get the money? Does she know she's playing fast and loose with state-mandated salary caps? Again, we don't know. But we should know. And that's one of the reasons why the governors and every other agency should come to the respective budget subs to explain what's going on. The governor, of course, along with every other staff, was invited to come to admin and reg to give an explanation of their budget and answer some questions about where these funds were coming from, what they were used, and so on and so forth. According to the LSA budget book for admin and reg, the governor's chief of staff said that these CARES Act payments were compensation for overtime accrued during COVID-19. The only problem is that no one in the governor's staff works for an hourly wage, so nobody should qualify for overtime pay. So we asked the governor's office to come to present her budget to us, and we asked, and we asked, and to Chairman Landon's credit, he asked, but the governor's office never seemed to have time to talk to us. Then suddenly, the governor's chief of staff showed up in the middle of an admin and reg meeting and decided that now was the time to talk. Representative Bergen, who was sitting in for Chairman Landon, wasn't expecting her. None of us were expecting her. She had nothing to pass out to us. She just decided it was time to talk when nobody was prepared. When asked about the LSA comment, Ms. Gongol declared that they were wrong. No one had ever said anything about overtime. Here's the real story, according to her. The affected people were loaned out to other agencies at the time, and their salaries were being paid for by the various agencies. But when COVID struck, those salaries were taken back in order to free up money for those agencies, and the salaries were then paid by the CARES Act. See? Simple. But when we asked about what other agencies were paid the salaries, what other agencies were paid the salaries of employees for the governor's office, we were told that that information wouldn't be available until after June 30th. When we asked for them to come back at another date to expand on this information, well, they just didn't seem to have the time. Because I would like to know what the governor's chief of staff, her public relations manager, her legislative liaison, and Lieutenant Governor Greg's speechwriters were actually doing working for those other agencies. The governor had a slightly different take on the matter. She said that when COVID-19 cases were identified in Iowa in early March, she moved half her staff to a state emergency center to organize the state's response. They worked 9 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week on the virus, she said. The other half of her staff remained at the Iowa Capitol, working similar hours, answering questions and working to meet the needs of Iowans. They were working hard. Nobody denies that. But so is every other agency in the state of Iowa. And the governor did not give those agencies one penny of CARES Act funds to cover salaries. And so are the 180,000 state employees who give everything to provide services for needy Iowans. The state nurses who made sure patients were cared for. The teachers who made sure that their students continued to learn. The workforce development employees who made sure unemployed Iowans received the benefits they deserved. The correction officers who put their lives on the line to keep Iowa safe. Did they get any extra funds? No. They were told to make do with the, at most, 3% cost of living increase mandated by this body. In fact, monies that should have been used for testing and contract tracing, support for hospitals, and economic support for businesses were used to pay part of the salaries of 21 of the governor's employees, with no explanation of where those other funds were allocated. This is not transparency. What Amendment 1402 is doing is asking the governor to explain where those funds were set. And it tells the governor that the money that we allocated for salaries are to be used for salaries. The state mandated salary caps should be abided by. If the salary caps are too low, maybe we need to talk about it. I got a good place to talk about it. Let's do a salaries bill. But in the meantime, we need to rein in a governor that has decided that she can take money from tracing, from hospitals, from PPE, and other needs and pay her employees. Don't know if they got raises. Don't know how much they're getting paid. Won't know that until after the fiscal year when we're gone. Please vote for Amendment 1402. It's our way to tell the governor that we control the purse strings, that we control the budget, that we control the maximum amount of salaries that should be paid. This is the only way we can. Thank you.